Have Titleist drivers actually got better in the last 8 years? I'm putting the 915, the TS2, the TSi2 and the brand new TSR2 head to head to find out. I can't get over just how different these look. So this is the 915 from 2014 and this is the new TSR2. Like, this looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. I mean, how clean is the bottom of that? There's so many like just nice touches that Titleist have worked on over the years. I think most noticeable is even from kind of last year's TSi2 model, little things such as like moving the loft detailing down to here, moving the name of the club to the bottom, having the Titleist just on the toe bit, it looks so much cleaner. And also you can see just how massively different the shaping is. There's so much more thought gone into the aerodynamics of this and how it works through space. So you can really see that massive transition from kind of all aspects. I mean, even look at the club face. Look how much detail there is on that. It's so good. Now, from a distance, when you put these down behind the golf ball, you might not think there's a massive difference. After all, they're both just kind of black gloss finishes. But even the finish of that gloss is different. We've got a much darker, more jet black now, which definitely looks nicer behind the ball. Little detailing such as we don't have the arrow at the front anymore, we've got that kind of TSR logo, and also the shaping is really different. This TSR2 has a lot more compact club head, the toes kind of rounded in, which I really love. That's really been inspired from last year's TSi3 and just how popular that was on tour. And also the club face just looks different. I think that extra detailing just makes it look a bit deeper, which I think is more confidence inspiring behind the ball in terms of kind of like strike location. I think sometimes it can be easy to miss how much something has changed when you move from kind of generation to generation, but when you look at kind of 8 years in difference like this, so much has changed in these drivers. Right, first up I've got the 915. I was literally obsessed with this drive when it came out, to the point I had it in my bag for like 4 or 5 seasons. Like, it took a lot to prize this off me. So it's gonna be interesting to go back and see now how it performs. So I've put the shaft that I got fitted for this year into this, and I've also lofted the head down 0.75 degrees, which is the most I can go, because this is a 10.5 and I've now been fitted into a 9. So I want to get this as similar to the TSR as I possibly can. You can see the difference on the club head actually. It's noticeably like a different shade of black. Still a really solid ball flight, like a nice high little draw. The sound's very different to what we've got now. It sounds more tinny, I would say, not quite as solid. And it's interesting because a big thing that pops out to me is like my club head speed's around 93 with this, which is probably slower than what we're going to see later on. In terms of distance, it's not bad. That was like 217 carry, but I can definitely get more than that. That was very high. It's definitely a little bit more spinny. I mean, some of that's going to come down to loft, but I definitely feel like with this, my bad shot's not anywhere near as good as my good shot, because I've caught that high and it's only flown 199 yards. So quite a big difference there, because that's dropped off like 20 yards. It's actually mad how much the club face has like changed between these two models. There's so much more definition now, and behind the ball, like, this looks so much nicer. I think it really gives you a lot more focus on that kind of central section of the club face, whereas this doesn't just quite feel like you're dialed in as much when you're looking over the ball. Now, don't get me wrong, clearly this is producing some great golf shots, but in terms of distance, I definitely feel like I'm leaving stuff out on the table. That last shot was my best strike and it's carried up at 227, but I don't think I'm going to get much more out of this. So let's move to the TS2 and see if there's a difference in terms of that ball speed and carry distance. So again, I've got this in a 10.5 head, so I'm going to keep that same B1 setting on the hosel. So that just means the club face is still square. I'm not changing the lie angle or anything, but I'm just de-lofting it a little bit. It just sounds faster. Like, I know the ball speed on that was quicker without even looking. Yeah, straight away I've gained an extra 3 mile/h ball speed. And on top of that, it also feels so much nicer and also sounds quick. I just really like the way this comes off the club face. The consistency of the distance is really good too. That's gone even further, so that's carried 230. and my ball speed jumped up to 140. So in context, before the 915, my average was like 136 ball speed, so I've gained 4 miles an hour straight away, which is pretty impressive. I mean, even by eye, I can see that's traveling further. What I really like about this is just how consistent the distance is. I'm not striking all of these out of the middle, but the carry distance is staying well up there, and so is the ball speed. So we're not seeing those big drop-offs, kind of like we did with the 915, where I hit that bad shot and it dropped like nearly 20 yards shorter. So in terms of out on the course and being able to have to say carry bunkers or hit into certain zones, you know, even if you don't quite get it perfect, you're going to get that carry distance, which is going to make it much more playable out on the golf course. So between TS and TSi, Titleist changed the lofts while the driver heads. So instead of being on 0.5s, like 10.5, 9.5, 8.5, we're now just like dead on the number. So this is a 10, but I've lofted it down again because that'll get me to like 9.25, which is very close to the 9 that we're going to see in the TSR. Now visually, this is where I think you see a really big difference. The back of this head is a lot more elongated than what we see in some of the other models, and that's for MOI purposes, you know, how much weight can we get back in the club case and on the perimeter of the club. It's going to give you more MOI, which is going to make your off strikes better. But is that going to affect other things? So I'd say at the moment we're seeing very similar numbers with this to what we got with the previous TS2. So my spin's good, middle 2000s, my ball speed's like 140, and we're getting just under 230 in carry distance. But something that stands out to me is, because we've now got that bigger club head, my club head speed has dropped down about 0.5 miles an hour, and it's something I did feel in the air with this model last year, like I just couldn't move it through space quite as quickly because of those shape changes, which is ultimately why I use the TSi 3 model instead, but obviously for this we want to compare all the two models. It's undeniable how consistent this thing is though. Like, I remember when I first hit it in my fitting, I'd like hit a shot out the heel and look up expecting it to be like this horrible cut, and it's just like straight ball flat, and I'm like, how is that possible? Like, in terms of forgiveness, you're getting a lot here, hence the shaping, hence the weighting, hence what they've tried to do here. So I think there's different things to look for. If you were looking for speed, maybe this model might not have been the best, but in terms of that forgiveness, definitely up there. I mean, for this set of data, my ball speed's only varied by 1.4 degrees. My spin has changed less than 250 throughout the whole set, and my carry distance has only varied by 2.7 yards. I'm not sure you can get more consistent than that. Time for the one you've all been waiting for. I need to remember to put this back on A1 now, because that's just standard setting. Don't want to be aloft in a 9-degree head, thank you very much. Now I just want to show you how different the shaping is here. So the new TSR is so much smaller and more compact. I love it. I just love the shaping. I think they've nailed it. They've kind of like rounded in the toe to match more what we saw with the previous TSi 3, which I really like. It's a lot more tour inspired, I would say, but I think it also gives you a lot more confidence personally for me, because I put it down, it feels like I'm really focused on that centre strike, and it also feels like I'm going to be able to move this club head fast, which in terms of speed is obviously pretty important. I mean, that's ridiculously quick. So my club head speed's jumped 3.5 miles an hour. So you can see just how much of an influence that new shaping has had, because that is massive. My ball speed has jumped to 149, and that's carried 237 yards. It's actually ridiculous. That's actually ridiculous. It's like 12 yards further than the average of any other. I'm not sure how they've done that. Now, not only is that like long, it's consistently long, even on kind of off strikes. I didn't catch that my best, so we're looking at like 146 ball speed, but we're still easily in the 230s, which is pretty mental. That's carried 245 yards for a total of 272. This drive is just so good. It's just so good. As you can imagine, it's going straight in the back. So have Titleist drivers actually changed in the last 8 years? Well, from the 915 to the TSR2, I gained 22 yards of carry distance on average, which is pretty damn impressive. The distance was also more consistent across the board, and my shots with my missed strikes were so much better. I'm not sure if you can ask for much more than that.